Hello everyone. Before we begin, just a reminder that we're running our review competition all throughout June, where you can win one of 3 bundles of 5 games on Steam. The competition closes at the end of June, so stick around for the end of the podcast and I'll tell you how to enter. So, speak to you then. For now, on with the show. Onirim, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and the Sniffer. This is Staying In.
This is the thing, Kris, and I've heard that you've been on the We're Not Wizards podcast and talking about me on it.
Yeah.
And I've heard that
that was what you told me to do.
I've been told.
Pete, I think that was the only way Kris could get permission in order to go on the podcast.
Yeah.
What's that?
The fact that that's the only way you give him permission to go on the podcast. We all have to run all of our decisions by you.
Yeah, I know. So, Kris, I've heard that you've been talking shit about me behind my back.
It was a lot of backhanded compliments. So,
right, okay, well, that's all right then. At least they were compliments.
I talked about just what we talked about in the last episode. The fact that you don't do anything in half measures, that you're committed and you're driven, and like you don't have a passing interest in something or anything.
Alex listened to the podcast that you were on.
Yeah.
And she said she was walking along to work and she was listening to the podcast and she got to the bit where you were talking about it, and apparently she stopped dead in her tracks and she went, he is. And then kept walking. I
was late for work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a revelation for Alex, your thing about We're Not Wizards. Perhaps taking up a new hobby isn't a good idea, which is probably why I've not been playing a whole bunch of stuff recently. It's really strange. I have kind of doubled down on other things that I've been doing. I've spent most of the last fortnight kind of either completing things or sitting lonely, staring at nothing, or sleeping. So I completed Yakuza 0.
Oh yeah? How was it in the end?
44 hours of absolutely top-notch Yakuza-based
brilliant
crime thriller crossed with comedy, Streets of Rage, the RPG. It's sort of Shenmue, but sort of not. Prequel to the Yakuza series. It's really good. It's probably the best Yakuza I've played, and we've talked about it way too much already, but yeah, it's really, really good, and I'm probably going to send it to you, Kris, at some point, or I might send it through to Sam. I think basically it needs to do the rounds, because I think it's a really important game. It's really, really cool, and it's definitely got me jazzed for Yakuza Kiwami, which is a remake of the original Yakuza game, but more jazzed, really, for Yakuza 6, which sounds super amazing. I've been kicking Sam's ass at Star Realms. He's not here to defend himself, but I have. He's beat me a couple of times, actually, but I would say I reckon my win-to-loss ratio against Sam is actually pretty high in Star Realms on the app, to the point it's getting a bit tedious, actually. Step up, Sam. That's what I'm saying.
Well, he left his... just to defend Sam, when he was here at mine the weekend before last, he accidentally left his iPad here. So his iPad was in my flat for the best part of a week. And I'd get messages off him saying, yeah, you may have to carry on for me on Star Realms.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
He was going to give me like kind of full access to his iPad just so he could carry on his multiplayer games. But I've stopped playing Star Realms on the app. My partner has become incredibly addicted to it. She loves it. Honestly, the card game. She absolutely loves the game. She's incredible at it.
So are we talking about the physical game, or are we talking about the
physical game? The physical game.
Oh, okay.
We'd probably play the app version if we went on holiday somewhere. Not just to play the app, but like we play the... She prefers the kind of card game version of it. Yeah, honestly, like I could see when she first saw it, like she wasn't too impressed like I was with the art and stuff, but she really likes the mechanics, and she just completely wipes the floor with me, which is always laugh.
So she's really got into that. Obviously, you didn't hugely like the art that came with it. There's general weird, rumory, talky, sort of not confirming anything, but sort of talking vaguely about Kickstarter from the White Wizards people, which I'm really interested about. They're talking about it being a Kickstarter to do with something to do with Star Realms, which makes me really wonder what it might be. Like a reimagining, like a reissue of the card art, a brand new expansion.
Would you have a console version?
I mean, it would work. Like a console version would work. Not amazing. I mean, I can't see why it wouldn't gain anything by being on a console, except for perhaps a slightly wider audience. But I think it would be really cool. I mean, it would destroy the rest of my free time because I would just have my PlayStation on, check into that every 10 minutes. But I don't know. I'm really interested to see what that Kickstarter is. Apparently, that's going to be in at least a couple of months' time. But yeah, I'm really fascinated to see it, and it's kind of cool that we've all jumped. I mean, apart from you, Dan, like we've all kind of jumped on the Star Realms thing. I mean, you played it a little bit, but you weren't massively into it.
I haven't reached a point yet where I am discarding it, but I haven't played it enough yet to say yes, I like it. I just haven't played it enough.
Okay.
But I wouldn't sit here and say I don't like the game. It's not for me because I haven't played it enough. So once I've given it a go and fully I understand everything, then I will know whether or not it's for me. But I'm not.
Will you play it and come back and give the Dan Frost mobile game report?
Yeah, but it may not be for a while.
That's fine.
I will eventually give the official, first, gold standard Dan Frost mobile report on Star Realms.
Yes. Excellent.
Put it in your diaries, even though there's no update.
I've put it in. But no, I really like how it's kind of trickled out and to a couple of different people, because obviously, like, I was looking into it and playing it a little bit, and I was like, oh, Sam, get on this joint, and then Chris, you get on this joint, and now it's gone to your partner, Chris, like, Alex.
It's like you're describing an STD.
I'm trying. STD, so like a star. Well, hold on, here we go.
A star transmitted. The Star Realm transmitted.
Addiction? No.
Diction?
No. Star Realms, like one word, transmitted.
Well, but it is a kind of
Star Realms transferable desire.
There
we go. Thank you, Dan. Our wordsmith there. No, but it is that kind of. It is like. I talked about this again on the We're Not Wizards podcast. So I'm trying to make it so you don't realise it was like a 2-hour slagging match against you, which it wasn't. The fact that, like, there's this obsession, but actually, like, there was something quite infectious about it. Honestly, just listening to that recording, it made me want to play it. And I went out and I bought the app. I bought the card game of it as well. And that's based on one conversation with you, and it's that kind of the black hole obsession of Peter Willington, which is an official thing.
That's the name of my fragrance line.
Peter Willington, black hole obsession.
Just sucks in light.
Yeah.
You cannot escape Peter Willington.
But Pete, I've got now. I can actually pose a card game now for you to become obsessed with.
Go on then.
It's a little bit less highbrow than Star Realms. It's a card game I was introduced to the other night by my partner's flatmates, who they played it with their neighbours, and they loved it so much they bought the card game. It comes in a round tin. And the cards are round. You may have seen this in various game conventions and things and wondered what the hell that is, because it just looks like a tin of coasters. But it's a game called Spot It.
Right.
I thought you were going to say there's a game called Doppel, I think, which looks very similar.
A bit like Doppel, Dan. You're absolutely right. And basically, I think it's the same company, Dan, because that's what I thought it was. And basically, in this tin is a stack of cards, and you flip them over, and it's pictures of several objects, and you'll see them replicated on other cards with different sizes. So deal out a set of cards each, and then you flip one over. You all flip one over at the same time, and you have to quickly look to see if there's somebody else's card that has a symbol that matches yours, and you have to quickly say it and give your card and put it straight away on their pile. And then they do the same. It's about trying to get rid of your card. And it sounds like a really basic game, but because all the shapes are different sizes and things, it's just that hilarious thing of just staring at your card, staring at somebody else's, and you're just about to ascertain what it is that you're connected, and suddenly a new card is on your hand. And you think, oh my god, okay, and it's that kind of that frantic pace of Escape from the Temple, where you're rolling dice in that case, and you've got a time limit. But here, like, it should be so obvious. The thing is staring you right in the face, but for some reason you can't see it, because there's this competition in the room, and it's just a quick, fast game. And we don't talk about these kind of quick fire kind of games. We tend to talk about kind of long-winded, kind of narrative-based games, or a little bit longer, a little bit meatier games. Not fully heavy, but this is incredibly light.
So that is very, very similar to Doppel, then, isn't it? It must be the same company. Doppel is a very similar game in terms of you have cards with images which are kind of different sizes. Rather than everyone kind of each having their own pile, you have one pile in the middle, and then if you have on your card something that matches on that card, you put it down, and then you carry on from that card onto the next. So everyone then sees from their own set, do I have something that matches? Someone puts a card down, that resets it. So it's the same in kind of concept as with Spot It, but I think Doppel is for a younger demographic. I first played it with my kind of 7-year-old nephew. He was the one who wanted to play it with me, and he beat me. Genuinely as well. Sometimes you'll play with a young child and you'll be like, I can absolutely beat. He's played me at chess before, and I've absolutely let him win. But this one, he absolutely beat me. And I was like, this is quite annoying, actually.
Yeah. He beat you at chess and he thought, maybe that was a bit too hard. Let's bring out Doppel, Uncle Dan.
Let's bring down Doppel. Yeah, beats Dan. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Uncle Dan is... Oh, geez. Can you handle Snap, Dan? He's rude. What's the name of your nephew?
Hugh.
Hugh is rude. We don't talk about games like that. There's another one, another really quite famous one called Pit, which is that kind of ultra energetic, lightweight, shout at your friends kind of a game. But that sounds really good. That sounds like a really nice, small, little, contained, fun.
Yeah, honestly, I was literally that close from buying it off Amazon straight away, just because it was just so much fun. I don't own anything like that. It's just it's one of those games that you can kind of play with people that don't usually play any kind of board game. It's good like something like to have that in your collection, really, and it is unlike anything I own, really. And it's a lot of fun. You're laughing hilariously because you're just shouting things like clock, clan, snowman, and piling them on each other. There's piles. No, recommend it.
Okay. You were also saying to me that you'd played Onirim.
Oh yeah. Now this was Sam put up on WhatsApp, didn't he, saying that Onirim was free for a very short period on Android on the Play Store. And I'd heard about it before because the Dice Tower, which I follow, Z Garcia, one of their reviewers, he loves solitaire games, and I've never really understood solitaire board games. I know Sam he's just bought Friday, which is basically like Robinson Crusoe. Literally, it's a one-player card game, because I just don't get the whole satisfaction. Like I'd played solitaire if I had a pack of cards and I'm stranded somewhere and I was bored, like I've done it in airports and things. But ideally, if I'm playing a game, I play it with my mates.
Well, it's funny actually. Obviously the company I work for, Auroch. So we did an adaptation of a Games Workshop single-player card game from the 80s, which was called Chainsaw Warrior. And yeah, they are. I mean, obviously good game, etc. Blah blah blah. But they are. So I've never played the original card game, but I've played our digital version a lot, and they are really. They're good experiences, but they are slightly odd experiences, because you do think that you have to get your mind over this first hurdle of, I'm going to play a card game by myself, because we so intrinsically think that a card game is at least 2 players. Like, it's just, there are no card games that you play as a kid, really, that are solo. You know, there's nothing
other than Solitaire and Clock Patience.
But then, I mean, how many kids are like playing like Solitaire and stuff like that? Like, we grew up with Solitaire because it was the best game on Windows 95 and Windows 3.1. But I mean, like, now,
but I used to actually play with real cards. My Solitaire experiences weren't just on the computer.
Really?
Yeah, because I used to play Clock Patience as well.
What on earth is Clock Patience?
Well, no, because Solitaire. I mean, I haven't played it in years now, so I'm not going to remember how to play it. Because Solitaire is also referred to as Patience. So just another name for it.
Klondike.
And then with Clock Patience, it is literally you put it kind of like in 12 spots around a clock, and then you have a space in the middle. And I can't remember how you play it now. But it is, again, it's a simpler thing of you having to rearrange all of the cards into set numbers, insert certain patterns and stuff like that. So it's that kind of thing. But yeah, absolutely. I'd play that. I'd sit in the living room on the carpet with just a load of cards playing out. Absolutely.
But there is something quite fun. Like, it's not the kind. It doesn't feel like the same kind of game experience as you get with video games, because we video games are like, the single player, the multiplayer, but it's kind of always just you and the screen, and we we kind of feel like we get lost in these spaces in video games. But with physical card games, I always feel like when I'm playing a solo card game, I'm very much like in the room. It's a bit more of like tactile experience. It's more of a workout.
I think the difference would be in a video game, the video game is the driving force. With a card game, you are the driving force.
Right, yeah, that's it. Like, you're your own arbiter of fun, right? Like, yeah, so
Pete's job as a children's entertainer was short-lived.
He just sits there, just staring at the kids. You are your arbiters of fun.
But I mean, like, to come back to, you know, as I say, like, not to harp on too much about work and stuff, but, like, for example, with Chainsaw Warrior that we did, so the game runs around dice rolls, and like a bad dice roll, you can just end your game, right? Like, and the same with when you would play fighting fantasy books, where it would be like turn to 23, you've been eaten by a goblin, and you would always like when you roll those dice, you go, it wasn't a 4, and you re-roll it, it was fine. Or, I didn't get eaten by a goblin, I actually chose page 97, you rescued the prince.
Very progressive.
Very progressive. Very progressive, those books. You know, so you were your own arbiter of fun, because you were always like, do I want to allow the game to punish me, and for me to not win? Which I find fascinating.
But I'm a complete hypocrite, because I don't necessarily get the solitaire game. But like, I'll happily play Onirim, which is it's a fantastic card game. But I could never imagine buying it as a physical thing, where I would, you know, get the box out, open the box, take the cards out, deal myself a hand. Dan's absolutely right. The way video games work is that they are, yes, there's this screen, but it is a reactive medium. I press a button, the game, you know, reacts back at me. Like, if I play a card, there's no one saying, you can't do that. Sorry. And then it, like, as they do in Onirim, you know, this goblin thing comes out and goes, I've got your cards. What you gonna do? Are you gonna get rid of one of your keys? Are you gonna give me 5 of the cards from your hand?
So how do you? So I downloaded Onirim on Sam's recommendation. How does it actually play?
I've downloaded it as well, but I haven't played it.
Right, okay, so picture this. So basically it's this beautiful kind of pastel-y kind of colour, it's this kind of dream-like kind of quality, and it's part of a series of popular games within this kind of universe which have this same beautiful kind of aesthetic. And basically you are unlocking doors. Sam's going to kill me because I'm completely butchering its kind of premise, because I've completely forgotten, forgive my ignorance. These kind of dream doors, as it were, and you basically draw a hand of cards into your hand, 5 in your hand, and you need 3 cards of the same colour with alternating symbols to open one of the doors, and there's 2 doors for each colour. But there are these nightmare figures, there's about, I can't remember how many, there's quite a lot of them, that are shuffled into the deck, and if you accidentally pull one of those, you have to choose whether to completely discard your hand, give it 5 cards to eat off your hand that you're about to deal out, and it'll take those, or if you've got a key as one of your symbols, you know, sacrifice one of your keys. And keys are valuable, because if you've got a key in your hand and then suddenly a door card comes up at the same colour, you automatically open the door. You don't need to have 3 alternating ones. So you can also sacrifice a key to look at the cards ahead and see when a nightmare figure is going to come up, and if you want, just shuffle it to the back so it won't appear yet. So it's very strategic. You could just play it in chance and just hope you get the sets of 3 that you need as they come up and things, or you could think quite strategically. I'm kind of on the fence of whether I like it or not. It's addictive, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. So there is this kind of degree of strategy underneath it. And it is immensely rewarding when you bust through the game and things. I think I've won about 2 out of 7 or 8 games.
Wow, okay.
I know, it is a steep learning curve, but the tutorial's great. It really takes you through really well on it, but it is very addictive, and sounds are beautiful, the art is gorgeous on the game, but it's not enough for me to buy a physical copy. I would only ever play this on my mobile phone.
That's really interesting. I suppose that is the beauty of digital versions of card games in general, in that it handles all the mechanics for you, right? Like, if there's a dice roll, you don't have to get some dice out and roll them. It does it. Like, it's just an RNG, and it figures it out for you. I suppose it's much quicker as well. That's actually one of the things not to harp on about it, but that's actually one of the things I really love about Star Realms, which is that the reason that Sam and I keep playing it is because it takes 20 seconds for me to play a hand, and I dip in, dip out, and it's done. Whereas, like, if I was physically playing it in the space, which I've still not done yet, that would take a little bit more time, which I really want to do, but having the game just go, tally up all of your numbers, go, yep, this card's available, this card isn't available, here's the next sets of things that you can do, all of that stuff I really, really love. Dan?
Yeah, hello.
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
I have seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yes! Gosh, Dan, no one else had seen it. Sam hasn't seen it yet. Gungadin, have you seen it?
Chris, do you want to know a little secret?
Yeah.
I had actually seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when you brought it up last week. I just didn't want to spoil it for the others.
Okay.
I went to go and see it at somewhere called the Everyman Cinema in Bristol, which is like a really nice cinema where it's not trying to be... It's not the Aberystwyth Commodore Cinema, where you get a little ice cream in the middle of the thing and there's like a break halfway through because they need to change the reels. It's not like that. And it's not an Odeon, so it's not like clean and slightly neon areas and big screens and all the latest blockbusters. It's not that. It's like...
It's an independent cinema.
There you go, Dan. That roundabout explanation was quickly summed
Yeah, I
up.
was going to say, so you went to an independent cinema?
Dan, Way with Words Frost here, is absolutely on fire. Yeah, it's an independent cinema, but yeah, so it's got
this
a
is what
really
you needed
nice...
with me being off for a few weeks.
I know. I guess what I'm trying to say is the aesthetic of the place feels like it's a very posh cinema, and it's trying to aim for a clientele like Dan, which is to say, knows a lot about films, wants to see something that's popular, but also wants to see something that's maybe not quite as popular, like something that Dan might have read about in Empire that might not necessarily get a very long run at an Odeon or a showcase or whatever, but would get a slightly longer run at an independent cinema. And yeah, it's very nice.
So more like more arthouse films as well as your big budget stuff. Some more arthouse stuff as well is what you mean.
Yeah, fancy stuff that you like. Stuff like I don't give a toss about any of that stuff. I went to go and see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 there, so I think they probably were like riff raff. But I saw it, and what do you think?
I really loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It captured what made the first one so great. It didn't. I don't think it matched the first one. I think that'd be very difficult to do, only for the fact of the first one was such a new property and a new kind of sense of humour, and it kind of just completely blindsided you. But also, I personally really like origin stories. I think when you look at all the comic book films, most of the best ones, most of them are origin stories, because you get that full breadth of character then. And so that's why I really liked it. But I laughed all the way through. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really liked the story. A lot of the story beats were brilliant. I know we can talk about spoilers because we've all seen it. So I love the bits with Yondu and that kind of story arc. I thought was really lovely.
Which one was Yondu?
The guy with the mohawk and the whistle arrow.
Yeah, liked him.
So I really liked that story arc. I adored Baby Groot. I could not get enough of Baby Groot. I could have watched the scene with him collecting different items from the cupboard. I could have watched that for an hour. The whole film could have been that scene, and I would have walked out skipping.
That's the best thing in the whole film.
It was brilliant. The moment where he comes out with the severed toe, and they just look at him, and it was just classic. But there's a couple of gripes that I would have. Some probably fairly common with most people. I think one in particular gripe I have, I've not seen anyone else have that gripe, so I think it's a little controversial. But before I go into those, what were your guys' thoughts?
Well, Gungadin's got a mouth full of bloody new potatoes, so I better kick in. Sorry to let the listener behind the curtain, but Gungadin, Peter Willington is having what appears to be a plate of carbohydrate while we're recording. I loved it, Dan. I thought in some respects it was too much of a good thing. I loved... It's almost a paradox. I loved every aspect of it, but I felt it was a little bit too long and a little bit too bloated in places. But I thought it was far more funnier than the first one, and I loved the first one. I agree with you completely, Dan. I am a sucker for origin stories. They're always my favourite bit. The Fellowship of the Ring is my favourite Lord of the Rings film. The first Iron Man film, I think, although I loved Iron Man 3, so I'm kind of undoing this now. But I loved Baby Groot. My partner, at one point, she just turned to me and she said, "Can we get a Baby Groot?" for a split second, that this talking tree with Vin Diesel's squeaky voice did exist somewhere. I loved the themes of fatherhood and the difference between being a father and being a dad. That was just gorgeous.
It is a lovely line that Yondu says, where he says, "He was your father, but he weren't your daddy," and it's kind of like at all. They kind of encapsulates that entire relationship that you haven't seen. You've never seen that relationship. It's always just been implied.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to have a film that focuses on fatherhood. Usually, if you think about usually in a sequel of a trilogy, it's kind of more a case of, okay, they get together in the first one, then there's a falling out in the second one, and they have to kind of put their differences aside. In the second film, it was about them coming closer and closer together. The first one was like as friends, the second one as family, which I thought was lovely. And I just love the fact that it is an indie film with a mainstream budget, which is perfect for the cinema in which Pete saw it in.
Yeah, I love comic books. Don't give too much of a monkeys about films. I don't really know the Guardians of the Galaxy that well. I saw the first movie. I thought it was really good. I really liked the bits with, what was his name again?
Yondu. Groot.
Yondu.
Yeah.
I liked him. He was really good. And I thought, the thing I loved, there was a real sense of like, yeah, eat a dick. Like when all the pirates got killed, that was great. And the little, some of the visual effects when the little panpipe that he's got or whatever it is zips around the space and the arrow.
An arrow, I would argue, is a little bit more piercing than a panpipe.
Depends how high
coming
you
through
play
your
it.
head.
Depends which note you hit. So basically, like, I love some of the lighting on some of those scenes. I thought that was really, really cool. Yeah, it was. I really liked it. I think it was slightly too long.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
But I think most things are a bit too long these days. Like I just get bored, I think. But there wasn't anything in there. So here's my thing. The reason I said earlier it's Everyman would be a place that Dan would really like is because I know, Dan, that you know a lot more about like the craft of cinema and you care basically about films a little bit more. I am quite literally the lowest common denominator when it comes to movies. I like to go and see movies like Guardians of the Galaxy because I like to just sit there and like eat popcorn and like sit there in a dark room eating popcorn and sweets and stuff like that and going, yay, entertain me, rather than anything else about it. So I didn't really notice anything else that was wrong about it, like or that wasn't quite right about it. So I'd be really interested to see. I'm always interested to know like more about film criticism and stuff because I don't see any of it. So what didn't quite jibe with you?
I think one thing that kind of bothered me, and it was kind of looking back on it that I was a bit disappointed about, is the fact that kind of probably around the midway point or maybe a bit earlier than that, they decide to split up the team, and so for the majority, for kind of a good portion of the film, the actual Guardians of the Galaxy get split into two teams. And what I really liked from the first one is that whole interaction of that team dynamic, constantly each person batting off the other. And so I really liked seeing the character of Star-Lord bat off with Rocket, but they split them up, and so you then don't have that for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit disappointing that bit was kind of taken away. And obviously that narrative device of splitting them allows you to do the storyline between Rocket and Yondu, which I don't think was as fully formed as it wanted to be. I think it still kind of came a little bit out of left field and felt a little bit forced right in. It was nicely done, and I got everything about it, and I liked it, but it lacked a little bit of the punch I think it was going for. The other thing that kind of bothered me, and I only say kind of, and it is, I think, somewhat controversial because everyone else I've heard talk about it have all loved this, but I thought that the character of Drax was a little overdone in this film.
What do you mean overdone?
In the first film, he is brilliant because he doesn't get everything. His thought processes are completely literal. So anything you say to him, he takes completely literally. And it's a great source of comedy. So the bit when someone refers to him and saying that something just went over his head, he says, it wouldn't go over my head, I would have caught it. And that kind of, just literally taking that. And that kind of, in this film, tend to descend into kind of, yes, literal kind of comments that he makes, but I thought there was just too much of them. In the same way that I really liked the amount of Baby Groot I got, I thought I was given too much of Drax. Too much. That kind of started to grate on me a little bit as the film went on. It tended to go over certain motifs and certain areas over and over again. It did eventually develop and show a development of the character, which was nice, but I found myself halfway through kind of getting a bit annoyed with the character. That the character was better than that. It didn't need a few of those scenes. You got the progression already. You didn't need the extra bit of him saying something. He didn't have to tell the Mantis character that she was ugly several times because he doesn't understand the difference between kind of someone who is beautiful on the inside, considering on the outside for him she isn't attractive. Once or twice, yes, that works, but that kind of kept happening again because it was a funny line, but I just got it started to grate on me a bit. And I understand that pretty much every review I've said, most of them have kind of said that Drax was a star of the show, and they've all really loved him in it, and they've loved kind of that character. I just didn't get that, and that I mean, I can understand that I'm in the minority with that, but I can't help that I was just like, oh, I got a little bit tired, a little bit wearisome. I found some of his jokes.
The character didn't make much of an impression on me. The only stuff I can remember of him are the comments about, telling Mantis she's ugly, and also that great line, "Oh my nipples," the recurring gag when he's given the jetpack and he's sent off.
But yeah, I didn't get the joke. Why was that really that funny?
Because it was from the very first, at the very, very beginning.
Yeah, no, I got that. I just, yeah, it just.
Yeah, no, there were some jokes that I think they were kind of quite right, and you can get away with that in a sequel. You can't get away with it in the first film because it's so beloved. You can kind of get away with jokes. Same with Pac-Man when he turns into Pac-Man. I mean,
can I just say, the moment where kind of the characters Star-Lord and Ego are fighting, and you see them start to amass rocks behind them, and you see kind of Ego jump through the air, and he's kind of built the rubble around him to create a giant version of him. I kind of almost groaned and went, oh no, they're not just doing you've turned into massive versions of yourself to have a bigger fight. And then Pac-Man came along, and I almost wanted to stand up and applaud. It was just like, that's amazing. That is literally laugh out loud funny, and absolutely what I did not see coming.
The thing I actually really like about Guardians of the Galaxy as a film series is that it completely undercuts the superhero shtick. Like, it plays with the fact that it's a comic book, much like Deadpool does definitely in the comic books, and to a great extent in the movies as well. It plays with the fact that it's about originally about superheroes in spandex carting across the galaxy in spaceships to fight aliens and to destroy ancient weapons and steal gems. And because of that, it gives itself the license to be silly. And those moments with the Pac-Man, where it's like you see that big Pac-Man thing, the reason that gets put in is because it is really good light relief. Like I was exactly the same as you, Dan. I saw that big monstrous stone version of, is it Val Kilmer?
Kurt Russell.
Right. Big Kurt Russell guy. Your voices, guys. That's so big Kurt Russell guy becoming a stone thing. I'm with you, Dan. Like I saw that and I was like, we don't need this again. And then for them to just completely undercut the whole thing with this brilliant self-referential 80s tinged joke about popular culture that people who are going to go and see that movie would totally get. And I love that because I'm kind of getting a bit so Alex and I have been going through all of the Netflix Marvel TV series, and we're just about now, so we've done all of them now except for Luke Cage. We're about halfway through that series because the first couple of episodes we just absolutely churned off it. We were like, oh man, this is so slow, so slow. It's really, the characters are great and the story is really interesting, but it's so slow. But anyway, we're going back to that. And the thing I've realised is, having come off the back of Iron Fist, which it's got its own share of problems, but the one thing it is not lacking in is pace. Like, they get through a lot of story beats pretty quickly, but all of them are pretty grim in places. Like, there's people getting their skulls smashed in, and, you know, people's stomachs exploding through drill bullets, and, you know, super fisticuffs in hallways. And then you see in lots of other movies, especially in the DC movie universe, where everything is grim and everything is the worst and everything wants to be the Dark Knight Returns. And yet, you go to see something like Guardians of the Galaxy, and straight out the gate, it's like, this is the 80s, this is super high colour, this is a bunch of references that you're going to get, it's a load of jokes, there's going to be some sad bits, there's going to be some touching bits, but you are in this for the action and the funny. And it's actually really refreshing.
Can I just say as well, as you mentioned there, just right from the off, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 must have one of the greatest openings to any film ever. Just
that took them 2 years to do that.
Yeah. And I love the fact that they spend so much time kind of with the computer graphics on the fight that no one is looking at. No one is looking at the fight going on behind Baby Groot, because everyone is just completely enraptured by him dancing in front of you. There's so much shit going on behind him, and no one sees it.
I really thought it was a good movie, and I hope that they do a third. They sort of suggest that they will.
They are doing a third.
My only criticism is not enough Ed the Duck.
You mean Howard the Duck?
Yeah.
Ed the Duck was a CBBC puppet from the early 90s.
Who do I mean?
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. Not enough of him.
Yeah.
And also
Roland the Rat.
Roland the Rat. Yeah. Good.
I want to get your opinion on one other thing. And it's not just Guardians of the Galaxy, it's general Marvel, okay? What are your views on the Stan Lee cameos?
They're brilliant. And I hope that they're building up to what they hint at in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, if he actually is a watcher?
Yeah, so it's the Watchers, and basically, I think so. He is all the same person, basically. All his Stan Lee cameos are the same person.
Yeah. And if basically they make it out to be Stan Lee is a watcher, and he's just a part of it, then I am all for them doing it more and more and more, because to me that is a really good indicator that whoever is the creative lead behind these projects,
Kevin Feige,
gets it. So they get it.
Yeah, because for me, they are always the worst, the lowest point of any Marvel film.
Right. Before Guardians of the Galaxy 2, completely agreed with you. Every single movie, I was just like, I couldn't relax until I saw the Stan Lee cameo. Like, I couldn't I was like, he's gonna turn up somewhere, he's gonna get his head out, so he's gonna pop his little head up and say, hello, it's me, I did all the comics. Yes, absolutely, I hated it, because I was just like, just get it over with. But now, if what they're doing is hinting towards actually he's a watcher, and actually the significance of him being a watcher means that it allows them to do some really interesting things in that universe, basically. Because it essentially says all of these are connected, all of the film universes are connected in some capacity, and those watchers have been throughout the Marvel universes. They're the only constant. Like, the Marvel universes completely change, get rebooted, and refined, and characters come and go, and whatever. But the Watchers always remain, and that makes me think brilliant, because that means that in 10 years' time, I'm sure he'll still be alive. He doesn't look like he's aged since the 60s. Stan Lee will be able to be there when they reboot the X-Men, when they reboot Avengers, when they reboot Iron Man, when they reboot all that sort of stuff, and there can be that continuity.
Yeah, but I don't need the watchers to know that this is all interconnected. I know it's all interconnected. It is all interconnected. And for me, the Stan Lee cameos are the worst because he is the worst. He is terrible. I respect everything that he has done. Yeah. But he ain't no actor.
No,
and
he's not.
He is hands down the worst thing in every single Marvel film. And every single Marvel film, bar none, I have sat there and groaned as soon as he's come on screen. I think the worst one was when he was in Age of Ultron and used his Excelsior catchphrase. I almost kind of wanted to just get up and go, no, I've had enough. No, that's it. Over. And yeah, it's just, it annoys me every time I watch it. I need people to share my annoyance.
I want to pick you up on the point that you believe that Stan Lee hasn't aged since the 1960s.
Yeah, he hasn't.
I'm looking at pictures of him now in the 1960s, and I think he has aged.
Has he?
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably aged by, let's say, 50 years.
Yeah. But just plucking a figure out of the air, yeah.
Since the 60s?
Yeah.
Sure? Oh, yes, no, he has. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Dan, the Watchers were just there as a little bit of something for the fans, really. I can't imagine they're part of Kevin Feige's master plan, which you're probably going to
I don't think they are. I think it was a James Gunn thing because that was obviously a fan theory, and he liked it, and he thought it'd be fun just to put him in a scene with them.
Because, admittedly, bear in mind that this is one of the few Marvel films of recent history which has had no reference made, apart from a couple of throwaway mentions of the Infinity Stones, to any of the other films.
Yeah.
I mean, you see Jeff Goldblum in the credits. That's the only hint of any other film in its existence. And I think, Pete, you're going to really enjoy the third Thor film, because it has that kind of 70s kind of science fiction kind of quality. I mean, the trailer was just the most popular trailer when it came out. It was just huge. And Taika Waititi, who's this fantastic Kiwi director, is going to do a good job of that, I think. I was going on Netflix. You know how Netflix gives you recommendations? It's trying to do this thing now, saying, "Oh, you're a 99% match for this." Like it's trying to, like, I don't know, like eHarmony or something, pair you up with a film.
And you look at it and say, "No, I'm not."
Well, my partner had been on Netflix on my account watching documentaries, and she'd watched this one documentary about like Nazi death squads, and apparently because we watched that, or she watched that, the films I should be watching are stuff along the similar lines, but also Men in Black 3, weirdly. But there was one that came up, and the title just intrigued me. Sam was like, "We've got to watch the first episode," and it's called The Sniffer.
The Sniffer?
The Sniffer. Now, before you even Google it, before you IMDb it, before you do it, Dan, I can see you doing it. What do you think? Imagine now, you're the executives. Yeah, in an office, 12 of you in the office. You're a TV executive. You've got a space to fill on your schedule. Prime time TV. I come in and say, "I've got this one-page treatment. It's called The Sniffer. What are you thinking it's going to be about?"
I think that it is about... Oh, okay, I know. I think that it is about a... Have you ever seen Dexter?
Yes.
Right, okay. It's about a person who works at the FBI, and he's part of their drug crackdown team. But the only way that he can find out where all of the cocaine and other drugs are coming from is by sniffing them. So he has to do lines of drugs. It's like Chew, the comic book Chew, or
oh yes, Chew's a great example.
Where they have to eat food, and then you can see the memories of the food. I think it's like he has to snort the cocaine, and then he's like, "Aha! It came from Colombia on a truck, and it saw that it was being taken into the country by Barry, and that's where we'll."
He can even smell the name of that person.
Yeah, exactly. And then Barry went to here, and that's where Barry lives. Let's go. And then the TV series is about that, and and his name's Nigel Druckmann. Nigel Druckmann, he's the sniffer. Gets all that stuff. First couple of episodes are like, he's solving crimes, being amazing, using his superpower. But then he realises that he's becoming addicted to cocaine, and it's about his slight It's about his fall from grace and him trying to cover it up while still trying to stop drugs happening. It's that.
Wow. Neil Druckmann.
I can't follow that.
No.
Well, I mean, mine was just going to be about a sniffer dog who solves crimes. I was going to have a crime-solving dog, but I can't compete with Neil Druckmann.
Stan, how would the dog work as a kind of a main character?
Voiced.
Okay, imagine Turner and Hooch. Okay.
Yeah.
But if Hooch were the protagonist.
Yeah. Hooch and Turner.
Yeah. So it's Hooch and Turner, whereas you follow Hooch and you follow him, and he has to deal with his overbearing owner.
Right.
But obviously, it's one of those things where you can understand the dog, you can't understand anything the humans are saying.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would be amazing, Dan. That would be amazing.
Why can't I crap in the kitchen?
That would be an amazing TV series. Just all the humans like proper Simlish, and all the dogs are just having proper conversations. Like there's the sexy Chihuahua on the corner. No, I never found out where the drugs are. And then there's like the British Bulldog who's like, oh, I can't believe I sold him a bunch of drugs and guns. Oh my god. Someone commission this.
I think all the humans should. When the humans speak, it sounds like they're barking, so it completely inverts it.
So was it that, Chris?
Who was closest?
Yeah, who was closest?
Oh gosh, I think Pete, you're the closest.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the Sniffer is, I think, the most popular TV series to come out of the Ukraine.
Okay.
It's like a procedural drama in which they've got essentially what their version of Sherlock. It's trying to emulate Sherlock in some respects. It's about a bloke who is contracted by the police to help solve crimes because of his amazing nose, and it's basically full of shots of him walking into a room and just
oh my god,
and just looking up into the kind of top round corner.
I have a 59% match for the Sniffer.
And yeah, you kind of like, and then there's this kind of like vapor that he sees, and he walks around the room following the vapor, like in Arkham Origins,
like in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah, like a Bisco advert. And he kind of follows this, and he can kind of smell everything about this kind of the person that was there and things. And because his sense of smell is so powerful, when he's not working, he has to put nose clips in.
Oh my
god!
Incredible.
It's incredible. So, you've got to watch the first episode, because there's one bit where he goes to a school and there's a bookcase behind this kind of glass front, and it's so obvious that the books are kind of just a picture of books that have been stuck onto the wall and put behind the glass.
Oh my god!
It's incredible. But I just think I've only watched the first episode, but I was thinking, how can they? It's been so popular. Like people online have done like these YouTube mega cuts of like Sherlock,
Poirot,
and the Sniffer. You know, like they're the same level.
That's amazing.
It's extraordinary. Like, but it is just a bloke, shots of a bloke, just going.
That sounds great.
It's done very, very well. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe ironically, I'll stick with it. But the Sniffer, you should check it out.
Oh, I'm going to check that out on Netflix. 59% match for you, Dan. They know you. Oh yeah, he loves all that art house cinema stuff. But you know what? Get him on the Sniffer.
Speaking of art house cinema, has and it's not really art house cinema. Have either of you guys seen the film Inherent Vice?
No, I really want to, because that's on Netflix. Is it on Amazon Prime?
It's on Amazon Prime. I watched it.
What's his face?
Joaquin Phoenix, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Pete. That's it. Yeah. I like the trailer. I really wanted to see that.
Yeah, it's Paul Thomas Anderson, Pete. So he directed There'll Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Boogie Nights.
Yeah, I've not seen. I've seen the Blood one, and it's about mining.
Yes, that's the one.
Right.
Anyway, so it's directed by
Pete. One sentence plot description.
Yeah, it's about mining, and it's not about mining. But I know you're thinking of the right thing.
The main actor, is the one who was in a stage version of Hamlet.
A stage version of Hamlet. Just think about what you just said.
This is the guy who earlier compared Val Kilmer to Kurt Russell. Which, to be fair, isn't as bad as his previous...
They're basically the same. They look exactly the same.
they're really not.
They're both white dudes with mullets, and I think they've both played Batman.
No.
White dudes with mullets.
Inherent Vice.
So you can't tell the difference between Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, and Rod Stewart.
Michael Bolton.
They've all played Snake. Right, yeah, go on. So, is this the same Paul W.S. Anderson who did the Resident Evil movies?
No. This is Paul Thomas Anderson.
Is that his brother?
I don't know his family history. I know his cinematic works.
I mean, how often are siblings given the same first name?
I hadn't even thought that. Yeah,
Chris has
enough.
made a very, very good point that I didn't pick up on.
I guess where I came from was they're both called Anderson, they both make movies, but I guess Anderson's a fairly popular name, and you're right.
And Gillian Anderson's their sister.
Yeah.
Jerry Anderson, who created Thunderbirds, was their great uncle.
I like the idea of having a child. We're going to call this Paul. We're having another boy. Well, I mean, Paul worked out really well. Let's just do it again.
So anyway, Paul W.S. Anderson, or whatever his name is. Paul Anderson.
Paul Thomas Anderson. Yes, I'd read the book of Inherent Vice a couple of years ago. It's a really difficult read. The way it's written in a way because the story kind of revolves around the protagonist, this guy called Doc Sportello, who is this kind of detective. It's set in early 1970s. He's like this detective, stoner, surf dude. It's kind of the whole kind of book, story, and film sits within a haze of cannabis and that kind of thing. And the book is written in a way that kind of makes you feel high. It's a really weird situation where I've been reading it, and you start kind of start a passage, and you get halfway down the page, and you realise you're now talking about something completely different. You don't really know how you got there, and it's just meandered, and the train of thought has taken you on this kind of journey, and suddenly you realise you're halfway down the page, and you're like, this is completely different to where this page started. And it's that kind of, the way it's written gives you that feeling of being completely out of it and just kind of high and just not that I ever have been, wouldn't dream of engaging in any illegal activities.
No.
And the film does the same thing. The film is a very difficult watch, not kind of for content reasons. There's certain films that you'll watch and they're just a difficult watch. You need to really focus, because otherwise this film will just run off and you'll lose complete comprehension of what's going on. But it's this
would be a really good challenge for you, Pete. Your attention span. You
literally, I had to sit there kind of reminding myself to stay focused because I was going to get lost otherwise. And the film kind of wants you to get lost. It wants you to have that feeling of just kind of blissful unawareness of what is going on around you and just kind of getting confused about the whole thing. It throws in random different plot lines in attempts to confuse you, but I never mind it when a film does that, because if the director wants you to feel that way. If a film confuses you because the director wants to confuse you, that's fine, because he has a reason for doing it, and it works. Yeah. It's really interesting watch, I think. It's a really interesting watch, just like the book was a really interesting read, in a way of seeing, as Pete, you were talking about earlier, the way kind of cinema and film can be done, and the way in terms of narratives and stories and books, how the book, the novel, does that thing of taking you, giving you the impression of being drunk, of being high, of losing kind of a vague sense of comprehension, but then you kind of snapping and realising, oh wait, hang on a minute, where am I? What am I doing? Right, and it's really good. I'd highly recommend it. It came out a good few years ago now, about 2 or 3 years ago. So, but I definitely recommend you catching up. As I say, it is on Amazon Prime at the moment. That's where I watched it. I was just flicking through on kind of Sunday afternoon. I thought, oh, I'll watch that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a Sunday afternoon film, but maybe a Marvel film for that. But yeah, highly recommend it. I've been gone a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know.
You've talked about Doctor Who.
Yep.
Chris arranges his music by the weather.
Yeah, I know. Right? I was like, Dan would have loved this.
And there is conversation around the fact that Brannigan's roast beef and mustard crisps don't exist.
Here we go. Now, listen, there's a reason, right, Dan, that it's you and me and Chris, and made sure that Sam wasn't on this one, because we need to gang up on Chris on this one. Brannigan's are the best Like ham and mustard Brannigans.
Roast beef.
Are you kidding me? They're like an institution. It's not beef and mustard. It's ham and mustard, isn't it?
No, it's roast beef and mustard.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You are right.
The two key flavours are roast beef and mustard, and if you can find them, which I can't at the moment, it's roast lamb and mint.
Yes, you're right. The roast lamb and mint ones are delicious. Now, so there's that. I remembered other ones. Boasters. Did you ever have Boasters? I think they were called Boasters.
Weren't Boasters a biscuit?
No, they're little bubbly chips. Maybe they're not called Boasters. Roysters? Roysters. They're called Roysters.
Careful, Pete. You might lose me now.
No. These are all part of that pub crisp. The pub crisp mythos, which is basically your Brannigans, your Roysters, your fish and chips. You know the little fish and chip ones that you get, Scampi fries?
Yeah.
Scampi fries is one of them. Your McCoys, fine. Yes, McCoys.
Bacon fries.
Bacon fries. All of these should have been much higher tier, and I'm glad, Dan, that you're willing to back me up on this stuff. Because, honestly, it's been a nightmare.
But I think when I first found out that this had happened, this conversation had happened, because I found out about it before the episode was published.
Yeah, of course.
I think my response to you, Pete, was, and I stand by it, that Brannigan's roast beef and mustard are the king of crisps.
The king of crisps. I do not disagree. I love them. I love board games. I love card games. I love video games. I love games of all kinds. But I think crisps might be more important.
That's a boom moment, that is.
That is. I don't think we can follow that. I think you've just ended the podcast. I don't just mean this episode.
First of all, there's a Tesco man outside, so this will probably all get cut out. This bit will probably get cut out. Alex! Alex!
I love the fact that there's still that hope there that it might get included. It may get cut out, he says. That if the rest of the show's rubbish, Chris, if the rest of the show's rubbish, you've still got this.
Oh, he's getting 3 crates worth of food. Oh my god, he's gone back for more crates.
Sorry, what? Oh my gosh.
I'm intrigued at how much food he's buying.
What's it say on it? Brannigan's?
That's another 2 crates. That's 5 crates worth of food.
Does he know something we don't? Little does that Tesco delivery person know that every sound they make is now being recorded. Okay, he's checking the order. Are you sure you want to order this, sir? Okay. I won't judge you. Can you just sign here, Mr. Whittington?
I know you made a request for spreadable meat, but unfortunately we don't have anything in stock that kind of covers that.
Are all these walnuts yours?
So we do actually have a health warning on ordering this much energy drinks. We can only give you three boxes of the drinks, I'm afraid.
We could, Dan, because we're on webcam, we could wave, and hopefully this guy sees us. He could, if he just sees us. There he is. He's looking. He's looking at us. And we're waving at the Tesco delivery man.
Wave at us. Come on, wave at us, mate. Come on, wave at us. He's absolutely seen us.
He's looking at his phone. He's pretending he hasn't seen us. These mad, two crazy people.
He's avoiding looking at the window now. He's absolutely seen us.
It's fantastic. What a time to be alive. So, Chris, what did you do last night? I waved at a Tesco delivery man in Bristol.
Hello again. As mentioned earlier, we have free bundles of 5 games on Steam to give away, and those bundles are as follows. Now, Bundle 1 contains Grav, 30 Flights of Loving, Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP, Golden Axe 2, and Samarost 2. Bundle number 2 contains Chivalry, Medieval Warfare, The Stanley Parable, Robot Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball, Comic Zone, and No Time to Explain. And finally, our third bundle, 2064 Read-Only Memories, Sid Meier's Civilization 3 Complete, Super Meat Boy, VVVVVVV, and World of Goo. Entering is really easy. Just go to your podcast platform of choice, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and rating. It takes around 2 minutes to do this. And when you're done, email stayinginpod@gmail.com. Let us know in that email where you've left your review, plus the country of the store you reviewed it on, and the name you used when reviewing. That's so we can find your review. Already left us a review? Awesome! All you need to do is mail us on stayinginpod@gmail.com with where you left your review, which country you reviewed it in, and your name. There's no need to re-review us or anything. On July the 1st, 2017, we'll enter the names we received throughout the competition period into the Compatron 4000, which will then draw 3 winners at random to receive the bundle of games. We'll then email our winners with their games that they have won. Have you got all that? Good luck, everyone. That was Staying In with Peter Willington, Dan Frost, and myself, Kris Darby. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to the comics, movies, games and more covered in this episode. And come find us on Twitter @StayingInPod. Thanks for listening.